mics, and I was sitting on one end of the room, and somebody in the audience was speaking on the other end, and I could hear it speaking.
Yeah,
So
sounds right. So
they
they
got
reinforce
some,
those?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're good to go.
Go ahead.
All right,
So thank you for coming to our late afternoon or mid-afternoon session on Bye Bye Yellow Pad. We're going to talk a lot about two particular kinds of mobile devices and two very different cloud solutions. But given all the discussion that I've heard today, we're all kind of in the same boat on cloud. I'm Wayne Miller at Duke Law, and with me is
Larry Essery from Campbell Law.
And Larry's going to start. He's going to give a little bit of an introduction, then talk about the device that he's been working with, and then I'll follow on with the discussion of what we've been doing with iPad minis at Duke Law.
Great. So we really want this to be very informal. We're here to give you kind of a snapshot of our experience, but we're also here to gain ideas and feedback from you. So anytime you have a comment or a question, please just speak up. So to start with, I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to take you on a trip into the future where imagine that there is no paper and all information is digital. Okay, I lied. I didn't take you into the future. I took you on a trip to the past. How long has the paperless office concept been around? I mean, at least for 30 years. Some of the network storage and cloud-based storage options are new, but IBM actually was the late 70s, mid-80s when they came out with the concept of the paperless office. I found this and I liked it. And then, I don't know how many of you remember PC Magazine when it came out in print view. It was my favorite day of the month when I got it, and I got to read John Dvorak and Jim Seymour. But I thought, especially with his dry sense of humor, this was a pretty good quote from John. And then how many of you feel like this sometimes? That was pretty good. And then the last one is the actual exam storage closet from an unnamed law school in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm going to talk to you today about the Sony digital paper, and I'll get into more details in a minute. But it's a small, lightweight, portable device. So I'd like to talk about what it is not, and then what I think it can be. So I told Wayne as I was putting this together, I kind of like the way that the three different topics flowed. But then when I started working on the details for each slide, it seemed to make more sense to start off with what it isn't, then tell you what it is, which will flow into what it can be. So I'm going to start out with what it isn't. It's not a tablet. It has a decent processor, but it's just rendering e-ink on the screen and then handling some file management. So it's not super slow, but it's not super quick. It doesn't have sound or video. It does have a basic web browser so that you can browse to a web page and then download a PDF to view. It doesn't have color, and it's not backlit. So having said all that, what I like about it is it's pretty well focused. In my experience with technology, a lot of the times when something is more narrowly focused, it tends to be more effective in the few things that it can do rather than trying to be everything to everybody. So what it is a PDF editor using e-ink. So It's fairly detailed and crisp in the image. You can also zoom it by pinching in and out. It does a full page, so that when you've got documents, you're not having to page left and right, up and down, to see anything on one page. And then it's very lightweight. It weighs less than a pound in its current form. It does have Wi-Fi. It has a long battery life. Even if I use it every day, it'll typically go 10 to 14 days on a charge. Again, because it's not color, because it's not backlit. So those things, while they might seem to be a negative, are actually just a trade-off, and the trade-off is you get longer battery life. And then one of the other things that I think makes it unique in the devices like this that I've used or seen before is it will automatically sync with any cloud-based system that uses WebDAV. I mentioned to some people that were here earlier, Campbell has entered into a marketing agreement with Citrix because one of their main offices is a block and a half from the law school. So you can actually look out the windows of the law school and see this huge Citrix building. So we've created a relationship with them, and they let us use some of their software for free, such as ShareFile, which is similar to Box, Dropbox, etc. They also let us use ShareConnect, which is the new version of GoToMyPC that they have. So I'll be talking about using this with. They've actually worked with Sony. Sony makes the hardware, and they've worked with Sony and created a ShareFile app that goes on the digital paper. So when you connect it to Wi-Fi and then start the app, it looks very similar to what you see when you log into their web page to access your files and folders. So the next thing I'd like to do, we'll go ahead and, I've got some extra units that I'll just hand out.
These are not door presents.
No, that's right. The dean did say I had to bring them back. So I've got...
Oh, this one was the other one. Was
Right.
there 3 of them?
3.
Yeah.
So on the kind of menu on the front, there's a digital paper demo file. So like I said, the only files that you can view on here are PDFs. But as you know, you can take any file and create a PDF. So I created a demo file that has the first page of an exam as the page 1, page 2 is a spreadsheet, and page 3 is a PowerPoint slide in note view. So sometimes that's what I'll use it. If I'm going to a presentation and I get the PowerPoint slide deck ahead of time, I'll print it to a PDF in note view. That way I've got the slide on the top half and I can write on the bottom half of the page. So while you're looking at that, you'll only see one. It does come with 3 tips that you can interchange. One is to simulate a pen, one simulates a pencil, and then one simulates a felt tip pen. They all make the same marks. They just kind of feel differently. And you can use red or blue ink. The red, once you get used to it, it shows up as kind of a light shade of gray when you're using it to write. After a while, you get used to it so you can tell red from blue. And then you have 3 different pen widths, from fine to medium to heavy. And so I'm just going to make a few notes. From here while you're looking at that. You can also highlight. So if you have a PDF file, you can highlight side. I'm going to change colors. And then I'm going to exit the document. And hopefully that will upload. And then what I can do, cross your fingers with live demos, right? Should come up with the changes that I've made to the document. I was pretty happy about getting this far, but for some reason it doesn't seem like it wants to load. So let's do this. There we go. So these are the changes that I just made to the document while I was standing here. As soon as you exit, there is no save button. The other thing I was going to tell you, there's a button on the side of the pen. You can program it. I've programmed it to be an eraser. So if you write, you decide you don't want it, just press the button, and you can erase what you've written or highlight it. You only have one color of highlight. But that's the capabilities. So now we'll jump back into the PowerPoint. And I'll finish up what I'm talking about with what I think it can be and what we've used it for at Campbell so far. So the thing that we use it for the most is for faculty to grade final exams. So like Wayne at Duke, we use electronic blue book, but I'm sure Exam4 and ExamSoft do the same thing. In the past, what I had to do was electronic blue book creates RTF files. Once the students upload the files to the server and you decrypt them, then it creates Word files. And then I had to batch transform those into PDFs, and I would upload them to the faculty's ShareFile account, give them one of the digital papers, and then they could open up the PDFs and grade the exams just like they were using paper. A couple of the advantages of that, though, is they don't have to carry around 3 reams of paper with them. Especially if they're doing a first-year class. They really like that. The second thing is, since it automatically uploads whenever you exit the file, they don't have to worry about losing an exam that they've graded. Obviously, we could get back the original exam answers, but they would be graded. That's extremely useful, and my wife has been a law school professor for 26 years. About the 5th year that she was a professor, she brought home a stack of papers at Christmas, graded them, went back the next week and was tallying the grades to present to the registrar, and she was missing an exam. We turned the house upside down 3 times. Never found the exam. 4 years later, and we were at Baylor University. Baylor built a new law school. She's moving offices, and she finds the exam behind the drawer in her desk where she put the stack of exams, and the top one fell over the back of the drawer. So you don't have to worry about that, which is a great relief. Also, you can use, once you've downloaded the files, you can obviously access and edit them even if you're not connected to Wi-Fi. Once you modify a file and exit it, it gets put in an upload queue, and and then the next time you connect to Wi-Fi, it automatically uploads it, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's the grading. So just like with the paperless office, technology, what I've found is anytime you try to force technology on faculty members, you're not going to have a very good day. So what I think Wayne and I both like to do is provide options. So I have about 5 or 6 faculty that love this. They've used it for 3 semesters now. They wouldn't think of doing it without using the Sony digital paper. I've probably had 7 or 8 faculty that have tried it, and they said, it's okay, but I'd rather use the paper. So it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. The next kind of target audience that I'm aiming for is our legal research and writing faculty, because they have weekly assignments that they give to the students. Right now they're using email to do that. What I'd like to do is set up folders and share file under each faculty so that they'd have a folder for each student. The student can then they share that folder with the student. So the student can upload a file to that folder. Just like I'm sure with Box and Dropbox, you can set up parameters on the folders where when a new file gets uploaded, an email gets sent to everybody in the folder. So the faculty member would know. They could pull it up on the digital paper, grade it, exit it, and automatically gets uploaded to the folder. The student gets an email, and they can go and see what their feedback is on that paper. So just trying to make it as seamless as possible for the faculty and for the student. Obviously, when you're using cloud storage, rather than network drives or hard drives that we don't back up anymore, everything's backed up. So again, you're not worried about losing things. The second thing is note-taking. A couple of things. I don't know about your law schools. My wife was the dean at Campbell for 6 years, and then she went back to teaching. In those 6 years, laptops kind of became a big thing. For a year, she let students use laptops in her class, and then she banned them. She just thinks they're too distracting to the students, and I think in her mind, even more important, they're distracting to other students. And so she's banned them. So a device like this would let students take notes in class. She actually told me that she's read studies where they've shown that you retain more if you handwrite your notes rather than typing on a laptop. And I think you might agree with that. And then, just like with the exams, the students don't have to worry about losing their written notes. Each student has a share file account, so they can easily share their note files with their study group. All they have to do is click on it, share it, pick the names of the people they want to share it with, and they have automatic access to it. One of the kind of unintended consequences or benefits is you can use these if you're going to a conference. Not so much conferences like this, but again, my wife went to a conference on employment law. They sent her a PDF with 700 pages of materials for the conference. Fortunately, they broke it. They gave her one big PDF file, and then they gave her separate PDF files for each session. So loaded all those onto the digital paper for her. And so then you can go into a session, you can pull up that file, you can make notes. I forgot to tell you a while ago, you navigate through a file by just flipping your finger across the screen. In the case of where there's 700 pages, there's also a box down at the bottom where you can click on it and it brings up a number pad, so you can click in a specific page if you want. Or you can take your finger, swipe it across the page, and hold it, and you get kind of a really fast forward. So you can go from 1 to 50 in a couple of seconds. And once again, once you finish taking your notes, you close the file, and it's all the notes that you've made are saved, and you can share that with colleagues easily if you want to. And we're just getting started. We've had them for about a year and a half, and so I'm constantly looking at more ways that we can use them inside the school and out. And then 2 weeks ago, Sony announced that they're coming out with their second generation, which to me is good and bad. It's bad because we have 20 of the old units, but it's good because one of the trade-offs, at least with this product, is they were expensive. They started out at $1,000 when they first came out with them. Then they gradually went down to $800. I got connected with kind of the evangelist at Sony who works on the development team for the digital paper. He was able to work a deal, so we bought ours at half price, which made them acceptable to the dean. So they're coming out with the second generation sometime this month. They're supposed to have a better processor. They've redone the digitizer to make it even faster, so that I think it's pretty fast now. I may have kind of gotten used to using it over the last year and a half, but I'm sure with an upgraded processor, it'll be even faster. They've also changed the surface of the display so that you're supposed to get a better pen-to-paper feel when you use it. They've also added Bluetooth, and I think the main reason for that is so that you can connect to computers, local computers. The Wi-Fi is good, but sometimes you may not want to put it on your share file account. Dropbox does not have WebNav. I think Box does, so that you could set up a network folder and automatically sync it. But now you can sync it with your office computer if you have Bluetooth in it. So that kind of wraps up what I have to show you, and I'll turn it over to Wayne.
Sorry, question. Does
Sure.
it do any sort of character recognition for your notes, or?
So it does not.
Okay. So it's not searchable notes on your TV for me.
So, yes. So you can make bookmarks. You can make sticky notes, and those can be either text or handwritten. So when you create the sticky note, you have a choice, and you can search those. And I read a marketing piece night before last, so there wasn't a lot of detail, but supposedly they've greatly increased the searchability capability of the second generation.
Okay. So, interesting device. We saw it early on in its career as well, and were intrigued, but did not take the steps that Larry and Campbell did. But more recently, we decided to look into using iPads as a central device for an initiative. And we call it our Digital First Initiative, which is comes with a caveat. Nothing revolutionary here, because there's plenty of other people involved with using iPads in projects in higher education. The University of was it Oklahoma? Yeah, has a digital initiative. Ohio State University has a digital first initiative. Lynn University, of a little private, I think even for-profit university has, all the students get iPads. And we heard this morning about the University of Richmond using iPads in a very similar way to our own project. So lots of caveats, but we wanted to create a project that did not just provide a device, but was really about making it productive, both for the faculty and students. In other words, the device can be productive, but we wanted to make sure that there were no hurdles based on the technology. So our project works like this. We identify interested instructors well in advance of the semester. We identify with them, we ask them what they do with their students. We identify tasks that they expect their students to do. And then we work out together what tasks would be more efficient as digital tasks, as opposed to whatever workflow they may currently have, which may be partially digital, may be fully digital, may be analog entirely. Then we create what we call workflow documentation, a very simple directed documentation to fulfill that task. If they are participating in our initiative, we deploy iPads to all their students at the beginning of the semester, or we offer to. Some faculty choose a variant on what our program is, and we work with whatever they want us to do. In one case in the clinics, they just wanted 4 iPads, not issued to individual students. We deploy software using Jamf management software. So if we've deployed the iPad and it doesn't have everything that it needs, we just push out the software. We provide the hands-on training, or we offer to, for the students. And then we receive the iPads back at the end of the semester, and we re-wipe them. They're supposed to wipe them before they turn them in. And we have them all registered through Apple's DEP, their device enrollment program, so that even if a student forgets to disassociate the device from their Apple ID, we can take control of it. So this is just one example slide of what we show to the faculty, trying to give them an idea, because obviously they come into this whole thing very cold. They're like, what? You're doing a project? And so we try to talk them through this process that I just described in the other slide, and this is just another representation of that life cycle. It's really important that we reach them before the start of the semester for all the reasons that you would all understand. And we're talking to a number of faculty right now and looking forward to developing their ideas further for the fall and spring. So when we make a workflow, the key items are the user documents start and end in the cloud. We use Box. We identify software. It's preferable if it's already licensed for obvious reasons, or if it's free, or inexpensive. Now, the platform that we've settled on is the iPad, so inexpensive is usually part of the program. That's good. And we only buy the licenses for the devices that are part of the program, so there's a scope on the cost. And we provide, as I said, the targeted documentation. We really do a lot of testing, as you probably do when you're releasing software or products. We work heavily with beta testers, and frankly, I'm one of the beta testers. I teach a class with Jennifer Behrens on law office technology, and we were the first guinea pigs for this program. And I wore 2 hats. One hat was in charge of the IT operation. The other hat was the instructor saying, wait, that's not going to make any sense to our students. And then we survey afterwards to see where we want to go with this. So, lessons learned. And what we're going to be doing here in just a few minutes is I'm going to demo some of what we've done with students. It's going to be a live demo because I'm fearless. And we'll see how it goes. Lessons learned the hard way. Expect to change your model. The guys who came up with this idea in my department they were ready to roll with Evernote, which is a great product for those of you who know it and use it. But it had nothing to do with software licensed in the Duke environment. So it really, as we started to talk about it, didn't make any sense to make that the backbone of this operation, the cloud piece, if you will, and whatever hold it together. So then we moved to OneNote. That's a great product, too. It's very similar to Evernote. Integrates with OneDrive, so there's a nice cloud piece to it. But once we started working with OneNote, it became clear it was too difficult to work with. It was a very complicated piece of software, if any of you used it. I really like it, but it's complicated. And it's too difficult to share. Sharing is not one of its strengths. So we ended up using Box as the backbone, if you will. It's not a full-featured writing product like Evernote or OneNote, but it provides the glue for all the documents that move in and out of the iPad environment. And so lessons learned the hard way. Don't reject awkward if perfect is impossible. And believe me, perfect was impossible, certainly in our environment. And you'll see what I mean by import with Box is awkward, because it is a little bit awkward. Okay, so what we're going to look at is video conferencing, recording, interviewing, scanning, and PDF annotation. I'll show probably a screenshot of OneNote, because we did develop a workflow for it. The description for this session talked about collaborative writing, because we've looked at that several times, but we never found a solution that was as good as just going back to your laptop and using one of the collaborative tools available that way. We're not Google at all, so we use Word Online if we want to try to, in real time or near real time, collaborate on documents. All right, so let's see if this is going to work at all for us. I'm going to switch sources. And we're going to go here. And the software that I'm using is called Reflector from AirSquirrel, I think the company is. If anybody ever used that, it provides access through Mac and Windows to AirPlay devices, and also to Chrome. And we're going to fill this in. Okay. So, and it represents the device. The devices that we've licensed or that we bought for students are the iPad minis because of the relative inexpense of those devices. Turns out now they've discontinued the iPad mini 2, which was our preferred model, and the 4 only comes with 128 gigs, so it's no longer the cheapest model on the market. So we have to think about where we're going to go in probably a year's time. So our first workflow was dealing with video conferencing. And we do a exercise in the class I mentioned earlier where students do a video conference negotiation. And then they write a short memo on how well the technology works for negotiation and what are the general issues about a mediated negotiation. So setting up a workflow for that was one of the first and important things. And what we wanted to show is that students need to think about this as an enterprise tool. Now, we settled early on to use FaceTime, simply because it's the easiest thing to do on the iPad. We're telling students the iPad is our tool of choice in this case, but what we're teaching you is that it is possible to have an end-to-end digital workflow. And so what we did is we had the students set up their iPads so that they could access our Exchange global address list. So now we're going to come in here. And, well, he's already showing up, but Jeff Saul, if any of you heard Jennifer and Jeff's talk last year on Digital First, they talked a little bit about it, and Jeff offered to talk to us today. Let's see. See if he's going to talk to us. Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
Say hi to everybody.
You're upside down. Hey.
Really? All right. Is that better?
There we go.
All right. Good. All right. Yeah. Oh. Now you're. All right. How about that? All right. So we're stuck with having you see us upside down.
No worries.
Come on. Well, anyway. Sorry about that. That's one thing we didn't test. All right. So, but this was what students used. They were able to reach each other through the Exchange directory and conduct their negotiation. That was an exercise we've always done through laptops. There's always been technical issues, not everybody obviously, but there's always been a technical issue component. And what we were able to do, okay, thanks Jeff, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
By using the iPads and FaceTime, we were able to eliminate that technical hurdle. They don't run into that one. That was a little unusual, but we were able to eliminate that hurdle and get them to thinking about mediation through technology rather than thinking about, well, it can't work because my laptop didn't work. All right, so there's one example. So there is Jeff. There's the global address list that I used to find him. And another very early request was to create a recording and what's that? Oh, yeah, thank you. So our clinics record frequently. We had our entrepreneurship clinic, some of the other clinics that record clients, and they need to be able to they need to be able to share that information. And so what we've had them do is do a quick recording and then and then they're able to upload that directly into Box. And this is where it's a little awkward because it makes you jump through all those hurdles to find the folder. But they were able to master getting the files into storage in very little time in a secure environment because we have all the necessary agreements with Box. And Larry is memorialized.
I'll send you my feed.
Yeah. All right. So there's another example. This is the OneNote example. I won't bother to show this, but we set up all sorts of things before we decided to give up on OneNote as the backbone. One was creating a Digital First notebook, coming up with the schema for subdividing, and we would provide all these suggestions to students. we still do provide a workflow where we make these suggestions, but we're then telling them, put it in OneDrive, even though that's not an inherent part of our Digital First project. But they all have Office 365 accounts. So the other two things that I wanted to talk a little bit about are scanning and annotation, which are not revolutionary, but if you haven't worked with iPads recently for scanning purposes, you may be surprised how effective it is. We found a couple of apps from Readle, I think it's the company is called. So there's an example. That was a scan I did earlier today. It does a pretty nice job. Let's see if I can replicate that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to say, get ready to scan. Now, the real issue is shadow. But let's see how it does. And if it recognizes a page, it will just do that blue outline that I showed you earlier. But if it's not sure, there is a button. And then it'll draw the outline. And then you can move the outline so that it corresponds to the actual text. And I'm going to save that. And then the other nice thing about this app that is not true about every app that takes pictures or does scans is that it'll create a single document out of them. And it allows you to edit if you don't like either page. Like say, I really don't like that one. I'm going to edit. Oops, I'm going to. Whoa, wrong button. It integrates well with the other application, which is PDF Expert. But that isn't where I want to be right now. I wanted to.
It did do a really good job of getting rid of the shadow.
Yeah, it did. I'm going to retake that photo. That one seems pretty good. Although I missed something at the bottom, but you get the point. This application also does character recognition. It'll take a little bit, but that's not uncommon. But it's nice to have it right on the iPad. It's a little bit slower than using Adobe Acrobat Pro, but it does a nice job. So I'm going to skip back over to PDF Expert. And again, these are just applications that fit our needs best. They're not very expensive, but we did have to license them. Other applications may fit better for your needs. So I'm going to go back to Documents. This was this morning's scan. And I'm going to do screen mirroring. It's smart enough to know if you're displaying through AirPlay. So it gives various options. You can just show the page. You can do a focus. So you can bring the eyes in. But it has the nice thing about this is a tool. Now this is not page size, and that's a little bit frustrating. But it can show you pretty much about a page if your eyes are really good. It has the same number of dots as a big iPad, so you could also go the standard iPad route, or even a Pro if you wanted. It's got all the tools that standard Acrobat has. It's got a couple of highlight pens. Those are the ones towards. Let me show you. It's got a couple of highlight pens It's got a couple of writing pens. You can change those colors, because I think you may have heard this as well. When you have students, you say, can't you just do it online? And they say, but I have my 4 different highlight pens. How am I going to do that? Well, at least you have to do it at the immediate beck and call, but there's a whole set of colors that the students can take advantage of if you can convince them that this is a way to work with documents. And we are talking to a faculty member who's willing, in principle, to give us a digital copy of his casebook for the purpose of sharing it so that students can read it on this device, not on a laptop, not in a 800-page tome, but save money for them. Doesn't help him, but it also might be an interesting way to see that first step of moving to a paperless process. I'm going to show you 2 other things. Now, this was a document that I scanned, but it was recognized, so I can use text-based highlighting as well. So not just drawing highlight, where you can see my hand. My hand is not very steady, but where it recognized text, it can do highlighting as well. And it does have a series of colors there, although they are, with my fingers, harder to get to. Now, one other feature that I really like, I'm not sure that students would get too excited about this. You want to leave a note. You have a question that arises while you're reading a text. So you get this option to leave a note. Pretty common. Same feature there. But what I like to do is, I don't know why this paragraph is here. Why doesn't it come at the end of the document? And it does a pretty good job of voice recognition. And so you can insert notes rapidly without stopping and come back to them later. And you don't have to listen to your voice. You just pick up the comments later on. And it has all the other basic Acrobat tools. They get saved right into the document. And then we're going to share this back up to the cloud. We're going to import with Box. There's another Box button, but the import one is the one that allows you to simply overwrite the existing edition of the document, if indeed there is one already there. Oop, already got in my way. And again, it's a little bit awkward. You have to find the folder, but it's if you order by most recently updated, it'll be in the correct order. And name conflict, I'm just going to replace the existing. That helps you if you want to keep different versions. All right. So here are some examples of what I just showed you. So where are we headed? This is where we come back together and hopefully hear from you all. We've talked a lot. And our conclusions are right here. Come on over.
What I didn't mention earlier was I found a factoid that said, I think this was even a couple of years ago, 1 billion printed pages per day. And I mean, maybe that's less of a number than it would be if we didn't have access to digital information. Still seems like a lot. So, you know, there are psychological and personal preference reasons why people use paper. I mean, I have notes that I wanted to follow while I was up here. So we're just trying to offer options to kind of get us started moving at least in that direction.
So, no single killer app. I think this is a no for you.
Right.
Talk about, and you've already mentioned that. Our younger generations are in many ways fully digital, but as you know, law schools, students come in thinking they have to print everything. And that's a difficult hurdle to get over.
It really is.
But paperless is spreading into practice of law, both in law offices and in court systems.
Well, we actually have one court, I can't remember which one it is, in Raleigh, that you can only submit digitally. And so hopefully that's where we're headed.
And what's our role? Are we, in sessions earlier today, it was admitted we're very often only reactive, but what's our role in being proactive in this regard, especially after 30 years?
Yeah.
So we had 3 things to say.
Implementation matters. Good implementation, you have a tool. Bad implementation, you have a toy. And as much as we like our toys, I think we all agree we need to be creating tools for our faculty, staff, and students.
Go for it. That was advice that I feel like I could say after our ongoing iPad experiment. Don't wait for the perfect technology. Find what works in your environment, and then be ready to iterate, because it's not perfect. And things change. I was looking at some of our workflows that we prepared for January, and the software has changed, so we need to update them for next semester. Questions, comments?
How do your students love them?
What's that?
How do your students love them?
So in our class, and that's my best gauge, is we have students who, you had said earlier, people cried when they turned theirs in. We have students saying, I really need to get one of these. But we have other students, I think this corresponds to your experience, who get them, put them on a shelf, and get them off the shelf at the end of the semester when they turn it in, even though they had exercises when they should have been bringing them. Yeah.
You guys do any sort of technology skills assessment before and after the class to see if the students are picking up those kinds of skills that you're trying to impart?
What we that's a really good question. We have no skills assessment that we've applied. We've had end of semester surveying, but that's not the same thing. We look at what apps they've opened. I mean, we have some of that statistical information, but not real assessment. So it's a good question.
I was just curious if it's really helping them, or if the students who are really technology savvy already are the ones who are using them more than the students
Well, I
who are
can
challenged.
say in our class we get a real variety, and just from the student reaction informally that I saw, they were not the most savvy people. So we made a difference with at least a couple of people.
You know, we don't really use them in classes yet. What I would like to do in the fall is survey the students, find out who might be interested in having one for a semester, because I have a few extra units. And I may have a drawing of the interested people, because I don't want to give one. I could have a lottery. Somebody might win, and then they put it on the shelf, and that's not helping us or them. So I think I may have a survey of who might be interested, and try to get it in the hands of students to see how it would work. Because one thing is, yeah, you can browse the web on this, basically, but the way you use it is just like paper, so you're doing this. If you're in class doing this, you're probably not taking notes, and it's pretty obvious to everybody in the room, so we'll see how that goes.
And I myself love my Kindle e-reader. And I thought about using it with PDFs, but it does not work very well with PDFs. Something that size is much more. Other questions, comments?
How do you handle if they bring their own device and they say, well, I want a bigger one, this is my own, I don't want to have another one? I mean, you just say, well, then you need to buy these apps since you enrolled them through your...
In that case, we haven't had anybody insist, but we have had people say, I'm not going to use yours except for when you make me, because I have a nice big one. So we have had that reaction as well. One thing that I will say that we do, because we've had students say, I don't want responsibility for that thing. We've said there will be no responsibility. If you still have it at the end of the semester, give it back to us. And we haven't had any problems yet, but I'm sure that could change. Any other comments, questions? If not, thank you for coming and staying. Start going crazy about stuff.
Thanks so much.
There is no
Chris,
no forgiveness on those.
I don't know why I was like, and I'm like, oh, let's go to sign.
So the new one,
Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
See one more out there.
Hopefully it's just concurrent connection. That would be the ideal way.
Or if you could do,
Yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah.
and if you're interested,
Every student.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
His contact information, sorry. He's always trying to find, especially in law school.
yeah. Well, let me talk to you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think presidency or so we're trying to get rid of the back. Trying to fix this issue where the battery can have it so that you can we don't want battery just so you right. Yeah, I mean people
You don't want to be that guy.
most batteries.
No, because this is the one they have on my work.
Yeah.
Not that it's like a lot of information in there.
Yeah.
That's only because
Key so that when I get
that's how I do everything.
need something in the classroom.
Yeah.
something
I know.
I've never been like, oh good, I'm so glad I
Yeah, if it gets well, you try to
Right,
something
right.
there's going to be like, oh, I'm
Right. I just assume that, I just don't because I don't need to. It's not there. You take advantage of it.
yeah, that was the first thing that Brian asked her. So, I guess you could get.
Like, I've been done
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you trade it by it does reason it may have changed.
It's a big, like a nice,
Yeah, so these are
it's almost like, right, show this.
Well, and they don't come out
Yeah.
on their own. I was kind of half working on getting that. And I thought that, I thought we should say,
Probably not, right?
you can buy.
Pirates
There, I mean, it's like $70.
Either way, so I'm sure.
I'm working on that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's supposed to be.
Which is
I'd like to be able to use that.
Okay.
No, because they, again, it's a trade-off, because you
Mhm.
can delay your hand on it, right, trade-off is
Right, I like that.
special pen.
We're up to date. Last time it was like in Google Docs, last time it was saved.
Yeah. Problem is, this is fixed. This is the one point stuff.
Okay.
And it can go just almost never off remote, but if you go down, but it's a nice stuff.
Yeah.
Like mobile pressure has a unique size. So then
If you're going to go out
two versions.
And that would be, I might have dedicated version here already bought in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, we're